Welcome to the Simply Real Life podcast. I'm Sarah, the founder of Simply Real Health, here to help you simplify, amplify, and elevate your life. This show is for those of you who want the real talk on how to live a more intuitive and intentional life, a life that's healthy from the inside out, and one that feels more effortless, aligned, simple, and more alive. We cover it all, from health, wellness, mindset, motherhood, daily habits and rituals, to business and relationships, creativity and growth, and tiny tricks to feeling your best, and the energetics behind it all filled with personal stories, unfiltered conversations, and of course, answering all of your burning questions, all in the way of simplicity and keeping it real, so that you can create your own version of your healthiest life. Let's do it. Hi guys, welcome back to the show this week. So we've got a really great question that came in, and it's a topic and area that we have covered before. So I'm going to put some of the episodes where we have talked about this because I feel like diving into this episode won't make as much sense if you have not listened to the other two that we have done already on this topic. But here's the question. It said, how do I keep my kids' taste buds continually growing and expanding and open to new foods? How do I keep them trying new things and making sure that I'm mixing it up? And the question itself, as we've talked about, really refers back to some of the episodes I've done before where I talk about how taste buds are actually one of the number one things to pay attention to, especially when you're wanting to raise kids that are open to healthy and real food and you're wanting to have them eat the same things that you do. Making one thing as a family, and maybe it's, portioned out in different ways, but the ability to not have to cook separate meals for your kids or deal with a lot of pickiness. A lot of this comes down to taste buds and how you train their taste buds, and not just training them once. There's that magic window of time that I've talked about before. In the first 18 months, let's say, if you have a baby or a young toddler, that those first 18 months of their life is the prime window to be introducing as many flavors and textures and spices, as many different things as you can possibly think of, to help their taste buds grow and expand and accept a wide range of flavors. That being said, that's the whole reason why I wrote the Baby Food Files, which is my entire baby food guide on how to get your baby started on real food and loving real food and craving real food and open to a lot of these different tastes and flavors. But then there's also this other side. As your kids get older, they're into their toddler years or young kid years, that's not just something that's one and done. If it was something that you never started young, that there is always this opportunity and chance to continually be sprinkling other flavors, other textures into your kids' taste buds, just to open up their world a little bit, open up the types of things that they know about, and really helping them appreciate a lot of flavors besides how typical kid food is, which is very bland, not flavored, or maybe it's dominant with one or two things, but very mild overall. And there's so many different ways I think that you can think about this, but I think that the overall message being that probably no matter what age your kids are, and really for adults too, what ways can we continue to work on stretching their taste buds and incorporating stuff that's not only the bland kid food all the time? I love this question because I am in it right now. Rosie she's under 18 months. And so it's something that I am thinking about. How can I keep her tasting all these different things? But then also with my other two kids, how do I keep them a little bit on their toes? So this is one of the best pieces of advice that I have that I did talk about in a previous episode of how to have kids that are not picky eaters, but continually challenging their taste buds, continually opening them and sprinkling them in ways that are not aggressive. And you're not making these full meals of things that they don't know or that they've never seen before or never tasted before. That would be a recipe for disaster. They probably will not taste anything. But there's a few little tricks that I've been thinking about lately that I've been doing in my own kitchen, and it makes me want to capture it, especially for a busy life. Even if you don't have time to cook everything from scratch, or you're not doing a ton of cooked meals, these are things that you can do. There's some really easy, tiny things that you can do to amp up the flavor and get their taste buds expanded in different ways. So the first tip I have is to take a meal that you know they already like that's sort of familiar to them in some way, and change it up just slightly with maybe just one ingredient. So an example would be like last week, I did this to my own kids. Sometimes we just get into ruts and routines and it's like, okay, we know what works. These are the quick and easiest meals, especially as we've had a third baby. Life is pretty busy. And so I do try to simplify and streamline our dinner routine. But then sometimes when I do have a little extra bandwidth, I'm like, okay, maybe it's a good time to try something slightly different or slightly new than what we normally do, but with a food that they typically already do like. So in our house, if we do noodles, it's generally been gluten-free star pasta, the Jovial brand, or sometimes we'll do like a quinoa and brown rice spaghetti noodle, but they're used to noodles of some kind. And so last week, I had this idea to try to do some peanut sauce noodles. And I was testing this recipe for the cooking club and made it. And my son looked at me. He's like, what's on the pasta? And I'm like, oh, it's a new sauce. It's actually really good. It has maple syrup in it and peanut butter. So two of your favorite things. It's kind of sweet. Give it a try. And he refused for the first minute or two because he's never really had that. We don't do a lot of takeout or Thai food. And that's what this was. And he was a little stubborn about it, but then eventually tried and was like, oh, yeah, this is pretty good. But it's like something where he normally will love the noodles, but it was noodles with a slightly different sauce. So continually mix it up, keep them on their toes, trying different things. And it's with stuff that's not totally foreign. I'm like, peanut butter and maple syrup. So how can those two things be bad? Another idea is if we do pasta and maybe it's chicken sausage, or maybe I've made my Italian meatballs or my Greek chicken meatballs from the first cookbook, that I'll do fresh basil on top. We always do fresh Parmesan cheese, but then fresh basil. We have a basil plant in our kitchen and then one in the garden. So I will let them go pick it. And then they are so much more likely to want to put some type of garnish on their food if they had gone and picked it. And we talk about smelling it. Then I chop it up and sprinkle it on top. But even that one thing of fresh basil on a bowl of pasta or meatballs or the crustless skillet pizza that I do, it's just a tiny thing, but it is a strong flavor. And so it does open up their taste buds a little bit more by putting it on something that they do already like. Or even something like a chicken salad. If you do chicken salad, grilled chicken or rotisserie chicken, and then maybe some avocado mayo, maybe there's some chopped up grapes in there and maybe some celery, depending how you make it. I have a great recipe in the second cookbook for my favorite version of this, but maybe you add a sprinkle of curry powder. So it's like they know that they like the thing, but then it's a slightly different taste or flavor and saying, yeah, try it. It's really good. I just always go with keeping it more low key. I'm not like pushing stuff at them. I'm just like, yeah, try it. And I kind of just walk away, or I take a big bite and I'm like, this is so good. And I try to describe it. I'm like, it's kind of sweet. I use the sweet one a lot with my kids, but it's all about the branding of it. So these are quick and easy ideas. What can you do on things that you're maybe already making? Small little tweaks that you can add a challenge and open up to different things. A lot of times for my family, we rotate through some pretty similar things, and or because I tend to buy the same things at the store every week. Like I always have carrots and I always have celery and I always have zucchini, because that can go in so many different things. We kind of cycle through all of those things. And the other day I was like, for my own sake, bring some different veggies in here. And so the other week I made green beans, which sometimes I just forget about. And I did them in a pan, just sauteed them in our cast iron skillet, olive oil, sea salt, pepper. And then I'm looking at baby Rosie and I'm like, what else could I do in here? I'll do garlic powder a lot of times for them on roasted veggies or sauteed veggies. And that's like a great, easy thing. But I was like, I think they're ready for a little more. So I took everything with the bagel seasoning and put it all over the green beans. And, there's like some poppy seeds in there. There's some sesame seeds in there and some garlic. And it's a very strong flavor, but it's also really good. So we tried that and they were skeptical at first, but then they were like, oh yeah, I like this. Another really easy thing you could do is just start sprinkling a little bit of pepper in their food, like a little bit of pepper in their eggs. I tend to do this naturally because I love pepper and Kyle loves pepper. And so we've backed off on the amount, but we still include it. Like when we make eggs or when we are, cooking veggies, there's still pepper in there. I don't want them to feel like pepper is too strong or too spicy. So I've always incorporated them with that, like, even from after 1 years old, like have pepper in their food, because that's how I make it and how we like it. You can take something like everything but the bagel seasoning and sprinkle that in cottage cheese. Right? If they eat cottage cheese and they like that, some of you may be even rolling your eyes at that thought of two of those foods together, but if they like cottage cheese, that's something I always have my kids eat as they're young because it's a different texture. It's like a little bit more chewy than just yogurt. Even plain yogurt, that's what I start them on, not flavored yogurt, plain yogurt, because it's so much more tart. And then they're working on their savory taste buds. Like, how do we expand savory taste buds? And this can also work for adults too, if you know any picky eaters. Like, working on savory taste bud expansion can be very helpful. I will say that the caveat on that is that if they are still eating a lot of packaged foods, or they are eating foods that are not real food, it's going to be much harder. Their taste buds are probably totally coated with chemicals or flavorings. That's going to be very hard to feel like savory foods taste great, especially real savory foods. So like making the slight switch to less packaged foods overall would be so helpful in this category as we're talking about this. And then the sweeter foods that they are eating, try to transition those to more real foods. So more fruit, crunchy apples, pears, grapes. And if they're doing sweeteners, having it be honey or maple syrup based instead of something super, super sweet like stevia. If you're eating candy and you're going from candy to then trying to eat cottage cheese with everything but the bagel seasoning, it's going to be a huge jump. And it's not about being perfect. It's not about not having things that are not real food. You can totally do that. But I'm just saying, if you have picky eaters, just take a step back and look at what they're eating overall for the most part. Is it mostly real food already? That's a great start. And then are there ways that you can slowly tweak the more savory types of food in their life, like where it's not just sweet? Or maybe if you're starting from the super sweet packaged stuff, maybe a transition to brands that have more of a real food base, but it's still a similar snack or a snack food. And then you go from there. Maybe can we introduce more real food instead of the packaged food? Great. It's like you can take these tiny stair-stepper approaches, and it's not this drastic thing that has to be done in a month or done in 2 weeks. But if you have this goal of wanting to save yourself so much more time and headache and hassle thinking about food, especially family meals, then it's something that can be really helpful overall to keep your pulse on. What are they eating for the most part? And if it is packaged stuff or if it is processed food, just knowing it's going to be a much slower, harder road until you can get some of those things out of their life, the staples. I'm talking about the things that they eat and do and consume day after day or week after week. Those would be the places to start, not the random one-off things. But what they're eating most of the time really matters. The processed food will coat their taste buds so that they won't be open to trying other foods. And the more you can start to open those taste buds up, even with naturally sweeter foods first, then over time, they become much more receptive. They will start to be open to trying more things because all of a sudden things that they didn't think they liked, even an apple or an orange or a kiwi, things that they maybe were not open to before when they had more processed food, that opens the door into like, well, I thought I didn't like that, but now I do. I will say like taste buds do matter. They do get coated. You can uncoat them. It takes about 2 weeks of getting onto more real food. Again, if you're doing it fast, but with kids, I wouldn't recommend doing that. We're like a slow kind of taper down, introducing of maybe newer snacks or ones that don't have as bad ingredients in them and taking that approach over time. Let's get back to some very quick and practical ideas. So another fun and easy way, this is something I also did last week, is to get fennel at the store and cut up pieces of fennel. The way I described it to my kids, I'm like, smell this, June. It smells like licorice. By the way, I don't think she really knows what licorice is, but it sounds like it's something special. I'm like, it smells like licorice. It smells like candy. And she's like, yeah, you're right. You want to try some? And I'm like, you know what? It's kind of like, it's like celery, but it's sweeter. Do you see my ammo here? This is how I roll. And she'll be like, try it. And she's like, yeah, it's good. So then I'm giving a couple pieces to Rosie as I'm cooking, just something even for her to chomp on or put in her mouth to taste a different flavor, like something that she's never had before. And also it is crunchy and it is sweet. And by the way, sauteing fennel is so good, or roasting it. Just put it in anything this time of year. It's so good. So it will not go to waste, but having that incorporated into your dinner, that when they're sauteed, it tastes like a little bit of an onion, but again, sweeter, haha, LOL. But it's just like a new flavor for them to wrap their brains around. Something else you can do, I don't know if it's just me with racking my brain of what other vegetables could I cook here. But the other day I had ordered sugar snap peas because I haven't done that a ton. We do cucumbers, peppers, carrots, and their lunches every day, one of those. And so I'm like, oh yeah, sugar snap peas. So we got into those this summer. And one of my grocery deliveries that didn't pan out the way I thought was to give snow peas as a swap. And I'm like, snow peas, totally forgot about those. Haven't really tried those. So we opened them up. Turns out they are actually sweeter than the snap peas. And as I'm cooking dinner, they're hungry. And so they're more open to trying food when they're hungry, not letting them snack up until dinner time. But like the hour before dinner, we cut off snacks except for veggies. So whatever mom is cooking, you can come snack off the cutting board if you want to. So I tried to snow peas and they were really good. So I kept a couple of them raw. And then I was like, I'm going to do some rice tonight. I've got some leftover meatballs. So we'll do rice, meatballs. And then, you know what, let's just saute these and see how it goes. And that was our vegetable for the night. And because I let them try it raw, they were more open to having it cooked. And so it was just even a reminder to me of sometimes just try some different things, but prepare it in a way they've had before. Like meatballs are not new, rice is not new, rice bowls are not new in our family, but the veggie, and I actually mixed it. I had some broccoli left up, so I threw broccoli in the pan with the snow peas. And so they had both. And that's another way to do it. Like include it with something that they already know, but there's one newer food. And then we talk about it, of like, oh, what do you guys think? Should I buy those again? Like these are pretty good. Okay. So those are just some quick little things. And then there was also one thing I thought of last week. And I'm like, this is kind of strange, but even with something small, like their lunches, if you're packing them for school, if you find yourself always going to like the same thing, like sandwiches, or sometimes we'll get gluten-free tortillas or corn tortillas and do sunflower butter and jelly or sunflower butter and banana and put those in tortillas, almost like a quesadilla. They love that. But if I have cooked chicken breast or grilled chicken breast, or it's meatballs, like I put those in their lunches for the next day just to mix it up. Don't have it be the same things. And then they really do get stuck on having the same things and it needs to look the same. But like I try to be rogue sometimes, just throw a few random thing in there and like see how it goes. And sometimes that newness is enough for them to be like, what's this? Like, what is this? I like this at dinner. This is strange. It's appearing in my lunch. And for something like chicken, I'll do like a little container so he has ketchup or something to dip it in. Let's see. The last idea I have is I've really been on this kick, and I said this in last week's episode, of just making Instant Pot beans or lentils for the week. And part of that is inspired because I'm like, that's a super easy thing for a baby to eat. But also when I have those made, number one, it's just so cheap. It's so easy. It's a great source of fiber. It's a great source of protein. Everybody in our family likes them. I can use them in soup. I can put them on salads. I can put them in things like rice bowls. It's just something so easy, but I have to remember to do it. Just pour the beans in, pour the water in, turn the button on, and like let it cook. But something like that, even doing some fresh or dried rosemary and adding a few cloves of garlic to those beans, like white beans, let's say, even that opens up different taste buds. Like, ooh, we know we like beans, but then they're going to taste it. The flavor's a little bit stronger, nothing overpowering, but you're just sort of sprinkling in little herbs here and there, sprinkling in some pepper, sprinkling in different seasonings that can really help expand our palates and keep them guessing, including ourselves, keeping it fresh and exciting. I think there's a lot to be said about that, and not just getting stuck the same food, the same routines, and for your kids to get used to you throwing in some wild cards here and there. I mean, isn't that just more of a microcosm for life itself? We want to be able to feel like we're resilient and we can handle when things are slightly different or different than expected. Secretly, deep down, that's also I'm thinking about as I'm doing that. Like if they get very upset that it's not exactly the same, then that's something we can talk through. And like, yeah, sometimes things are different a little bit every day. And it's good to know what you think, and it's good to try new things, and just keep the conversation pretty mellow. And I know that this should go without being said, but I'm going to say it anyways, that you know your family and you know your kids best. And you will know if something like this, there's a reason maybe why it wouldn't work for you. But then also be aware of your mindset of automatically closing to ideas just because you've never tried them. Some of these may be worth a try, and use your best discretion. Pick things that you know your kids might be more open to, or maybe it's a time of day that they would be more open to it. Maybe it's something with their breakfast food more than dinner, but ways you can incorporate more savory food, more flavors, more textures, things that they already like and enjoy, and then adding in some new fresh elements. I think there's just so much to be said about being intentional of how you're feeding them. And that goes for the type of food, like real food versus processed food, but also being intentional about continuing their growth, continuing their expansion as people, as adults. Like, they will be so thankful, even if they don't love it in this moment, but just the fact that you're teaching them how it feels to grow. It feels sometimes uncomfortable when there's something new, and that's okay. But sometimes if you try it, then you realize it's not so bad. Isn't that a lesson for life in so many ways? Keep it fresh, keep us growing, keep us reaching for new things. It's like a little bit on that like growth edge that I always talk about, even with mindset coaching. Can you feel something new and different and not be afraid of it, but something new and something different and like, well, let's try it. That's the mentality deep down that I want to encourage in my kids too, of not being afraid of things and not letting fear dominate and dictate every decision. And so this is just one tiny way that I'm thinking about those things as I'm thinking about something so simple as their food. Not to be afraid, not to let fear take over your life, but there are new opportunities and so many possibilities out there. And how will you know if you don't even try? And this is just one of those little ways that you can do that hopefully also serves you, in that your kids will be more open to things overall, and more open to newness, more open to different ideas, more open to creativity. They can start helping you, even suggesting, what do you think we should put in here? You know what I mean? And if this feels like it's too much of a jump to start with something more sweet. Like, start expanding their taste buds, but doing it with real foods that are maybe more naturally sweet. So maybe you start with something like one of my healthy breakfast ideas in the Busy Morning Breakfast Guide. I'll link that below, but that came out a couple weeks ago. It's only $11. It's easy, simple recipes for breakfast scones and little muffins, and great ways to start that are nutrient dense and also very easy to just throw together. Maybe you start with adding cinnamon to something. Maybe you start with swapping out cane sugar, or it's a packaged snack, and instead of a packaged snack, you're doing a homemade baked good. You're just bringing in more nutrient dense food. You get to do some of those things together or talk about it together. And that's also another amazing place to start. So no matter where you are, no matter how old your kids are, or whether this even applies to yourself as an adult, like, don't give up on trying, on continuing to put some new things out there, and being bolder in how you're thinking about things, whether that's your food or other parts of your life too. I hope that this was helpful. And if you try any of these, let me know how they go. And I'm sure as you start to do this, you'll probably think of your own examples too, or things that you can try or test out and see how it goes. So let me know if you do. I'd love to hear. Come over and find me at Simply Real Health on Instagram. And I hope that you have the most amazing week.
If you enjoyed this episode and want more like it, make sure you're subscribed to the Simply Real Life podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and maybe share it with a friend or two. That would mean the world.